when you're working in
Okay.
different countries. You have to understand that things can be different culturally. You mightn't agree with some of the cultural practices that happen in different countries, but you need to understand and respect that that's what the culture is.
Now, I want to talk to you a little bit more about the project that you run in Africa. So, I know at the moment you have done few. We can talk about what you're doing in Ireland, but I'm more inquisitive about the work in Africa. Before we go into that, there's something that came into my mind when you were talking. You seem to be working a lot in Africa, but that means that you have a good culture of diversity and how to handle the diverse culture, diverse background, and diverse way of doing things, right? So, what is your company and yourself have learned into those elements of diversity and how to manage employees from different background? How do you manage that?
I think we've been lucky because, we're over 60 years working internationally. So we've always had a culture of diversity within the company.
Okay.
So we've understood the difference different cultures bring, and difference isn't a negative thing. Difference is a good thing, and diversity is a good thing. So we've always embraced that and understood it. And when we were in our last growth cycle over the last 5 years, we went from a company that was dominant with Irish employees to a company now that has about 50% Irish employees and a 50% non-Irish employees.
Okay.
And we've over 50 nationalities working with us at the moment.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so there's a huge diversity, and it's a question that we've asked ourselves sometimes, and we've brought people in to speak about diversity. And we had a session a couple of years ago with somebody who came in. I was taken by the fact that I was in the boardroom. We were having an in-person session and also people online, and I looked around, and the diversity in the room between gender diversity and different nationalities was huge.
Yeah.
And the person picked up on it immediately. Saying that normally when she gives the talk, she's talking to an organization that's full of Irish people or full of English people and is white male or dominant within a particular way. And she said, she did say, your company is already hugely diverse. And it was the feedback from people as well within the room to feel that they were comfortable in the environment that we had. So I'd like to say we had a very detailed, elaborate plan for us to be the diverse company that we are. But I think it's just happened over time and the fact that we have the experiences of working in these different countries. And it accumulated into or culminated into an award we received a couple of years ago where we became the first engineering company, either in consulting or in construction, to achieve the Gold Award for Diversity with the Irish Centre for Diversity. And we're particularly proud of that achievement.
Yeah. Okay. That's very important these days to actually focus on the talent as opposed to the different stereotype of you have to be Irish or whatever. Now, one thing I'm thinking about is that how do you then manage speaking different language of cultures? You see, when I mean languages, cultures, right? People interact based on their cultural background, right? And trying to understand and doing business. I know you have that experience for all these years, but what's that thing that stand out in a way that you were able to get into those cultures and understand the way of doing business in those different countries? How did you do that?
I think, we have a few rules when we work internationally.
Okay.
So the projects we deliver are big infrastructure projects. And they generally, particularly in Africa or in the developing world, they're funded by financial institutions, international financial institutions, like the World Bank or the European Union, and our Millennium Challenge Corporation would be a very good American funding agency. And they generally contract in English. And when you're dealing with contracts and contract law and the risks associated with contract law, it's important that you understand the terms and conditions in the contract. So we generally will contract in English only, and that's a big help to us in understanding what the risks are from a contract perspective. We don't tend to contract in foreign languages and that we wouldn't be familiar with. And that's just a business decision that we've had to make over the years. And a lot of the countries we would work in Africa would have English as if not a
First
primary
language.
language. It could be a
Yeah.
first language or it could be a second language, but generally the people we work with all have very good English. In the locations where we have in the past worked in countries where French might be the primary language, or Swahili might be very well spoken, we would have local people who would understand the language and be fluent in the language. And we tend to partner with engineering firms within the country as well. Some of the objectives of these foreign investment banks is to develop a skill set within the countries so that in 20 years' time or 30 years' time, there will be companies within Tanzania or Namibia or other countries in Africa who will be able to deliver the projects themselves. So we tend to partner with that, and that gives a knowledge transfer to the local companies as well on how to manage and supervise these large construction projects, which we're seeing is happening now.
Can you then, you have delivered over almost 20, in 20 developing countries, and a lot of projects, over 10 million people across have benefited from your projects, right? So can you tell me a little bit more about those projects and what are they really?
What types of projects?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've one very interesting one. It's not in Africa, so I hope you don't mind me mentioning it. It's in a place called Timor-Leste. It was funded by the Millennium Challenge Corporation, so a US aid agency. And Timor-Leste was the subject of a lot of unrest from the 1970s. Indonesia came in and took over some of the country, and it was a previous Portuguese colony. And the country was left to fight for their independence, which they finally got in the early 2000s. But because they were in those struggles for many, many decades, infrastructure didn't keep up with the times. And so the capital, Dili, is a city with about 350,000 people, and it doesn't have a clean water or sanitation. It doesn't have a sanitation system, which has a big impact on the people. A lot of the town, the houses there would have a groundwater supply and also then a kind of a septic tank system for dealing with any wastewater. Yeah. And there's a lot of cross-contamination. So unfortunately, about 1 in 20 children will die before the age of 5. There's a lot of disease within the country which affects growth. Millennium Challenge Corporation recognised this as a challenge. The government recognised it as a challenge, and they wanted to appoint consulting engineers to help design a new sanitation collection and treatment system for the city of Dili. And so we tendered for that opportunity a number of years ago, and we were successful in winning it, which was great. Okay. It's the other side of the world, so the challenge of getting there is interesting. It took me 48 hours to get there.
I can imagine, yeah.
To sign contracts.
I don't even know where is it based. Like when you say the name, I know the name, but I don't even know what part of the world it is. That's amazing.
But we got to know some local, we got through the university there, we got to know some local engineering professionals there. We met a site investigation company who were going to help with the site investigations. And ironically, Nicholas O'Dwyer had worked there 20 years before, and they remembered working with us at that time, 20 years ago. And so we started to work on that project, and we employed, at its peak, we were employing about 60 people locally to help do the surveys and the design work for the scheme.
Okay.
And when that project is finished, that's the type of project that we like doing. It has a huge impact both on the environment, but more importantly on the actual people and communities within Timor-Leste in the city. And it'll lead to much better outcomes for people. If they don't have to worry about getting sick, they can focus on other things like education and career development and all those things. And the country is very much in its infancy stage since it's got its independence. So look, that's a really meaningful project for us. And we had no problem when we asked people within the company who'd like to work on the project. Many people put their hands up. And that's very important for us, that the projects that we have on offer for people who work with us are interesting projects that make a meaningful difference.
That says a lot about the company's culture.
Yeah.
I have to say. That says a lot about a company's culture. It says a lot about the people. I was going to ask you the questions about the sense of well-being in the company, but that statement is just an answer, right? Because a lot of time people just want to stick to where they are and they don't want to do more because they don't feel okay in the company. They don't want to give themselves when they don't feel happy. And that says a lot. Now, one thing I want to say is when I was asking as well about the language culture is that I would say that speaking a little bit more about how people interact, not just the spoken language, but the cultural behavior that they have. The way, for example, people do business in Cameroon is different from the way they do in Ireland, that's for sure. And I'm just wondering how you're navigating all the little political barriers of that, and the things that you're learning from those. Like it seems like you're determined as a company to do what you have to do, and that spirit is amazing. It's inspiring. But I think someone will wonder, how did they survive some of those cultural barriers, right? So what are the key things that you're learning, and what are the key things that you could tell us that how you manage those cultural barriers in those countries?
And of course, it's not just cultural barriers. There's all sorts of other barriers and logistics that you have to understand, because working in different countries is challenging. And we've built up a lot of experience over that. Culturally, it's we have people working on the projects that are quite emotionally intelligent, I suppose, is maybe a good way of describing it. So they understand that there are cultural differences. And I suppose that's the starting point when you're working in different countries. You have to understand that things can be different culturally. You mightn't agree with some of the cultural practices that happen in different countries, but you need to understand and respect that that's what the culture is. Through maybe working with the local partners, or just being careful at the start of projects and listening and having an open mind, you get to learn these things pretty quickly. I mean, it can be a very simple thing about handshakes, or when is it appropriate for a handshake, or is it appropriate for a handshake? It could be very simple learnings like that can make a big difference. So we tend to try and stay in the countries that we've got some experience in previously. And like we are working in a lot of countries, so we have plenty of opportunities to stay working in those countries, and you tend to learn the cultural nuances in those countries pretty quickly, and you want to keep that learning, because it is. You're right. It is a challenge.
Yeah, and it's inspiring because it seems like you are not afraid to take risks, so your company is not a risk adverse, and you have probably a risk management program in place that is powerful enough, because trust me, I believe that is not straightforward to navigate those different challenges, especially in the developed countries, I have to say. Now, so talking about the project, so you're doing a lot more on water management, and but I think we can also say that you did some humanitarian work there as well. Yeah,
we have done. Yeah, we have. Yeah,
that's amazing. Do you want to talk about it, or because it's just an inspiration for me.
Yeah, well, we do feel a lot of the work that we do as project work has a humanitarian element to it, because clean water and sanitation is important. It's we would feel it's a human right, really, in this day and age, that everyone should have access to clean water and sanitation. It's one of the objectives of the UN sustainability goals. So we're fortunate in that we have a business that actually helps to deliver those humanitarian benefits, and we can run a business and be profitable in doing it, so that we can keep doing it. So that's a really I don't know what the right word is. We're very fortunate, and that's the type of business that we run, that we're already in that particular space. But sometimes when we're working in countries, we get an opportunity to do something a little bit different, which has a different benefit for communities. And we've a very large roads project in Malawi that we're doing with other RSK companies, and we're doing a water supply scheme for the capital in Lusaka. And just somebody reached out to us to see if we would help with some school that was being developed in country, and we just provided some. We asked internally if people would be interested in getting involved, and some people put their hands up. So we've helped with some structural engineering design and the water supply for that particular school. And I was fortunate enough to visit it a couple of years ago. I got a fantastic welcome from all the local communities who go to the school, and learned a lot about it and the challenges that children have with education in Africa. So it was a real eye-opener for me. I got to see some of the textbooks that the 14-year-olds were learning, and I was surprised, but pleasantly surprised on reflection, to learn that they're taught the exact same simultaneous equations that the kids at the same age in Ireland or the UK would be taught in school. It's just the difference is opportunity. They don't have the same opportunity to progress
than here.
Their education.
Yeah. But let's come back to Ireland. Someone listening will be thinking, So what about Ireland? So tell me a little bit about what you're doing here in Ireland. I know you have obviously some more projects in Ireland as well. So do you do also in the sense of community support, or is just transport, or is it water, or what is the
Yeah,
base of Iowa
we work in
projects?
most sectors. We have a
Okay.
strong presence with Ishgare and helping them deliver their program of work. It's very
Okay.
important. People in Ireland, a lot of people in Ireland think that when they turn on their taps, water magically appears, and when they flush their toilet, the wastewater magically disappears, and they don't think about what's why how does that happen. So there's a lot of infrastructure investment needed in Ireland in the water sector, and thankfully I think the government are starting to realise that. We're a little bit unfortunate, I think, in Ireland, and that there aren't any engineers in the government, so there aren't people explaining it maybe to the politicians that this investment is really important. Um,
Okay. Yeah.
and having a national utility is a very positive move. It happened in 2012 during the last recession, where we united all the competencies that were with the local authorities who were previously charged with delivering water infrastructure, and we've brought it together now into a single utility, which is the best vehicle for doing it. And I think there's a growing realization that infrastructure investment in water is very, very important. We also work with schools, we work with hospitals, we work in transportation, um, we work in energy. So across the entire infrastructure development, we're
Yeah.
currently helping Irish Rail develop Rosslare Port, because they need to build it with bigger capacity to allow for offshore wind turbines to come into Ireland and then be located out at the various offshore wind farms that we have around the country. We don't have a port that's big enough in the Republic. There's one port in Belfast that can take it in. So they're developing Rosslare Port for that particular purpose, and we've been lucky enough that we're the engineers at the moment, bringing it through the planning stage, and then hopefully next year we'll be involved in the procurement of that. I think there's a lot of infrastructure investment in Ireland. We're in a fortunate position at the moment that we have some money from various tax returns that we've been able to secure over the last number of years. And infrastructure investment, when you talk about the billions that's invested, when you consider most of that money gets reinvested back into the economy. So if you're paying people salaries and people are living in Ireland and paying tax in Ireland, a lot of that money gets reinvested back into the economy. So the real cost of infrastructure is only a fraction of the headline figures that you hear in the news.
Exactly. that's so true. Now, this is amazing. So I want to say congratulations in some way into your company and that going so well and impacting so many lives, because this is what this channel is about. It's more about community impact, but providing a service that does just providing, like you say, revenue and to the government, and also mostly impacting people's life as much as providing a service. Not every service impacts people's life, as you know, right? So it's amazing. Now, what do you guys do for the work-life balance? How do you, Jim, especially, because I can see this a lot of hard work but do you have fun? Do you have a
Sometimes I have too much fun. Yeah.
Oh, really? That's amazing. That is amazing.
Yeah, work-life balance is interesting, and you have to have a balance outside of work. I guess I'm very fortunate. I have a great family.
Okay.
So my 6 siblings, we all live quite close, bar one who lives in Germany. We live close to each other, and we would still be in regular contact with each other. My mum is still alive, so she's still there as an anchor for the family. And then I have my own family. I have 3 wonderful children and a fantastic wife. And when I get home, I can pretty quickly forget about work if I need to. There's
That's amazing.
plenty of things going on.
Yeah. Are the children grown up already? Or I
have a 16-year-old, a 15-year-old daughter who's doing the junior cert. She's just doing her mocks at the moment. I have a 22-year-old who's just in his final year in college, and a 19-year-old who's just started college. So they're progressing. Yeah. The demands that we have now are different than they were when they were much smaller and we were changing nappies. But they still have some kind of nappies that need to be changed every now and again. They still need support. Yeah.
And doesn't that be a little bit different, especially in the era we live where everything is technology based as well? So I know what you mean. Trust me.
And I think, like we're fortunate, and I'm also fortunate that I have a good network of friends. So some of them I've known since primary school, from the age of 8 or 9. and we do things together. So, and I play sport still, which is great. I play a bit of soccer and play a bit of golf. I think it's important to have some safety valves where, and sport is great. I think it's a great valve. It's a great outlet because when you're playing a game, you do have to forget about everything else to concentrate on the game, and that
Yeah,
creates a
exactly.
great stress relief.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and then you talked about having fun, and kind of going back a bit to the engineering piece. I'm curious is maybe a good way of describing things. I'm curious about people. I'm curious about how people interact. I'm
yeah.
curious. I like solving problems. So, I can do a crossword and that'll distract me for a while and keep me fun. I like watching movies.
Mm.
I like going to the cinema with the kids or sitting at home and just watching a movie and watching different personalities and having a chat about it. So I've plenty
Yeah.
of I've plenty of opportunity to have fun outside of work.
And that's really good to know because the concept of being a managing director and to a company like that, and people are more interested in, would I still have a life if I want to go into becoming like you? Someone want to become a manager, or the people get more scared about the work-life balance, and they feel, or sometimes they feel guilty about their work-life balance and having a private life because they just want to go. And so it's nice to know that people can see that it's still okay to have fun with your family. It's still okay to go out there and do something special because that's what keeps you sane to eat and come back and perform the rest at work, isn't it? Yeah, it's very important.
Yeah, but and it's about balance. So when you're in
Mm,
a responsible role within a company, there are times when you can't have the fun,
yeah,
but you need to have a support ecosystem around you that understands that might happen sometimes. And
yeah,
when that happens, they say, yes, do what you need to do and come back and we'll go and have fun then in a week's time or 2 weeks' time when the pressure
yeah,
is off. So
yeah,
it's a kind of, it's making sure there's a balance and a team around you
yeah.
to be able. And I'm very fortunate. Um, when the kids were younger, we made a decision. My wife would work at home for a number of years while the kids were very young, and that allowed
Okay,
me to progress my career,
okay.
which was important to me. And we made that decision together. Um, and now she's back working again in the
Mm,
workplace. So I understand that there are tough decisions sometimes that have to be made
yeah,
with
yeah,
regard
yeah.
to family life and career
Mm.
development, and having a
Actually,
supportive unit is
this
important.
is so powerful what you just say. I think I think the whole concept of mentorship. You had a good mentor when you started at work. Have a great support system from your natural family, which is your parents, your siblings, and now you have a fantastic partner in your partnership in your with your wife, right? I feel there's something interesting about. I have the same conversation with. I've been interviewing change makers like you and people who are doing a lot of things in the community for so long, and that's the two things they have in common: that sense of partnership, but that partnership and mentorship and support. Now, did you for you? I want to know: did you create that support system, or it fell into places? It was just natural, like the people around you loved you so much they just want to support you. Now, obviously, we know your wife loves you; it's the given, right? But I'm talking about the other environment apart from your wife, your friends. Did you just create that sense of support, or it was just natural?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess I was fortunate. Certainly,
Mm,
when you're learning about those support systems, you're doing it at home first
okay.
because that's where the first one is, and you don't have any influence about that. That's your parents. Um,
Yeah.
and your family environment. And you do have to adapt and learn when things don't go your way in those environments
Yeah.
and understand them. But the people who set the ground rules at the start would be your parents. And then when you're at work, you bring those values with you
Okay.
and I suppose you will look out for them. And when you see a place that invokes those values, you recognize them and you feel comfortable there and you know you're going to have an opportunity to grow in the work environment. But again, you're limited when you're a graduate coming into a company as to whether or not you can impose those values or
Mm.
influence those values. So I've been fortunate, very fortunate in that family and home first and then workplace, those values were enshrined really.
That is powerful. What would you say to someone who aspire to have that life, but is in an environment of, let's say, abuse and not lack of support from parents and everything, but really want to grow and want to become someone better in his life or her life, right? For example, I've seen a lot of people don't have support from their spouses in what they do. They are spouses who are jealous of the success of the other one. And you have also parents who were abusive, you know. So what would you say, what advice would you say to people who are in those situations, how to navigate the journey they want to take to step up into where they want to, the dream that they want to achieve?
Gosh, I feel like I shouldn't be giving advice to people in those circumstances because I don't have the experience. I don't have the experience of it. But what I would say is if you have an ambition or a dream, map out how best you think that can be achieved. And it's very hard to do something on your own.
Yeah.
So hopefully those people will have some level of support, whether it be friend or a family member or a work colleague. And hopefully those people, and also you would hope that they're in a company which has systems in place to allow you to have a good career.
Okay.
Certainly in our company, we have a good process where we have a mentor program. Okay. We also have a CPD program. We have regular reviews with people throughout the year, but we have 2 formal reviews after 6 months and 12 months each year with people where you sit down and you have a chat about how the job is going, what areas of interest would they have in developing their career further, what that might involve, whether that's some internal training or getting involved in a project like Timor if they want to work internationally, or whether they want to go on a course to learn more skills with a view to getting to a different career progression in the next 2 years or 3 years or 5 years. So I think it's important that people do consider how they're going to get to where they want to go to, and then write down a plan on how to achieve it, and then seek the support within the organization that they work with to make sure it's achievable. And if you've got an organization that isn't supportive of you in developing that career development, then I do think it's a signal that if you want to achieve your ambitions, you may have to look elsewhere.
That's brilliant, because people are afraid to step away. You have said something very powerful about the impact that your company is making and yourself are making, but also one of the things I'm learning is that mentoring support system are key to achieve goals. Yeah. And that's something that I really strike to see a lot from this channel. People can hear from your stories and learn from your stories. It's been an amazing conversation. I have been inspired, and I'm sure the listener will be inspired. So what do you say to people who would like to get into your company? How do they come to get to know about what are the services? Just your website, is it? How do people find out about you?
Yeah, we any open positions we have, we've got them advertised on our website. But I wouldn't. I mean, people can reach out at any time. We've got a recruitment team within the company. We're anticipating that we're going to have about 50 new employees by the end of 2026, hopefully. And then sometimes we'll win a project internationally and we might need 50 or 60 people very quickly. So, our website is www.nodwyer.com, and there's a recruitment page there, and they can send in CVs or they can link in with me on LinkedIn. There's no problem. People have done that on many occasions, and I'll let the recruitment team know of their contact details.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being on the show today. We want to thank you, Jean, for your time and for being gracious about what you do in your life. And I believe that the viewers have been inspired. But guys, if you like what we're doing here, please, you know what to do. Like and subscribe to our channel, and stay tuned for more stories, right? And thank you, Jean, for being on the show. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Pleasure to speak to you. Bye-bye.
Bye.